Our relationship has struggled due to a lack of communication, among other things. For example, he would leave the kitchen and leave me alone even though I wasn't done eating. Or we would play with our kid, and then he would be gone a minute later, never to come back. When I asked him where he had gone as I was worried, he said he was tired of playing and got mad. Are you tracking me? I said he could have said so instead of just disappearing. I kinda got used to his lack of communication. I learned I could no longer have kids, and 2 weeks later I was being fired. We went through moving and doing IVF, and I did feel very alone. Fast forward this year where I tell him I still feel lonely in our relationship. In May, out of the blue, he says he wants us to split because we have no connection. After talks and him getting stuff off his chest, he felt better and was ready to start our relationship anew, from scratch. Now October. We have a 2-week vacation planned abroad, and the night before, I overhear him on the phone saying "I love you" twice to someone. I let him finish the call and confront him. He says it's only virtual. A much younger girl he used to coach. They've been talking on the phone for 2 years, but only since 1 year have they had feelings for each other. After long discussions on the trip and in talking with a shrink, he acknowledged that that relationship is going nowhere as she is 20-ish and that he wants to stay with me and our kid. He asked if I wanted him to stop talking to her, and I said that it was for him to know what to do. 3 weeks later, I asked if he was still talking to her. He said yes. I said that I felt uncomfortable and how would he feel if the roles were reversed. He said that I am the one he is choosing now. It's with me he wants to end his days. Tonight we had a talk, and I said that I was not feeling well as he had been away on a business trip and I was imagining him talking to that girl or to other female co-workers. He reassured me, saying again I was the one. I asked if he was still talking to that girl, and he said yes. She is an important friend and he wants to keep in touch with her. And that he can have both, her friendship and a life with me. I got mad and said he was yet again not considering my feeling. That I had this constant feeling of distrust and I hate myself for it. Knowing that he said "I love you" twice to her not even 2 months ago. And him insisting to keep friends with her makes me even more afraid how important she is to him, more than me. He has other friends. I said this was a big red flag for me and that this is not possible for me. He needs to cut ties. He is upset. So, aita? For some context, she asked for space because she said she wasn't feeling a spark anymore. This devastated me as we'd been planning to spend vacation time together. After she asked for space, I went back home, crushed. She still told me she loved me, blamed her own feelings, and broke down crying, saying she loved me. We ended up hugging and kissing in a public square for 2 hours while she cried. When I went to her apartment to pick up my things, she said we'd talk about things later. For days passed, and she messaged me asking how I was doing. I told her I was okay and asked how she was. She responded with, "I don't know." I told her, "When you feel like talking, let me know." I didn't hear from her for 5 more days. I wanted to respect the space she'd asked for but was struggling inside. During that time, a friend invited me on a short trip to Portugal to surf and skate. Since I hadn't heard from her, I decided to go. It wasn't because I didn't want to spend time with her, but I felt like she didn't want to spend time with me. While I was there, I posted about the trip on Instagram. When I got back to Spain, she told me she loved me but wanted to end things because of my trip. I was confused, as she was the one who asked for space. A few days later, she texted me saying she loved and adored me and had been depressed in bed for days. She said she'd call me that night, but she never did. 1 week turned into 2, and then it was my 30th birthday. She didn't reach out, which broke my heart. The next day, I had a flight to the US, a trip we had originally planned to take together to meet my family. I messaged her saying I'd be in Madrid and would like to see her, even just to say goodbye. She asked what time I'd be there, but then never replied. At 1 a.m., she finally texted, "I'm so sorry for being selfish again. I've been thinking about you since your birthday, wondering if I should reach out. This morning, your message broke me, and I haven't been able to pull myself together. I don't feel strong enough to see you, especially to say goodbye. I told her I understood and said, I love you. She never responded, and it's been 2 months of silence since. Some additional context: she fell for me first, was the first to say I love you, and initiated our relationship. She was very passionate about me initially, but now it feels like I don't exist to her. So, aita for going on the trip to Portugal while she was asking for space? Should I have done something differently? I, 37F, left my husband, 38M, earlier this year after discovering he was cheating on me with someone from his workplace. We were together for 12 years, married for 8, and I truly thought we were solid. Finding out he was sneaking around, lying to me for months, was the most gut-wrenching thing I've ever experienced. I found out over Christmas last year. When I decided to leave, I asked my friends for one simple favor: please don't maintain a relationship with him. I didn't think it was unreasonable. He betrayed me, and I needed my friends to have my back as I tried to pick up the pieces of my life. Most of them understood, but one of my closest friends, Sarah, 38F, completely ignored my request. Here's the thing: Sarah and I have been best friends for over 15 years, but she's always had a weird dynamic when it came to my relationships. She used to make comments about how she was jealous that I always ended up with the good-looking guys, and would sometimes joke that she had a connection with my ex even before he and I got together. I used to laugh it off even though it made me feel belittled, thinking she didn't mean anything by it, but now I'm not so sure. After the split, I started noticing Sarah acting strangely. She'd casually drop things into conversations that only my ex would know, like details about his new job or what he's been up to lately. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off and said she read it on his social media. Eventually, a mutual friend told me Sarah had been texting him regularly and even meeting for coffee. When I confronted her, she admitted it but tried to downplay it, saying, "We were friends long before you and him got together." She said, "I'm not going to throw away my connection with him just because you two didn't work out." What hurt even more was when she added, "I don't get why you're so upset. He's still a great guy, and you need to stop being so controlling." She said I was being too emotional about the divorce and accused me of forcing her to pick sides. Then she told me to stop always being the victim. Here's what really hurts: I don't know what she's been telling him about me. I confided in Sarah about everything: how hard it's been to start over, how anxious I feel about my finances, and how much I've struggled with therapy. The thought that she might have shared those deeply personal things with the man who destroyed me makes me sick. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore, and I stopped speaking to her. Now she's texting me, saying she misses our friendship and thinks I'm being unreasonable for cutting her off. So, Reddit, aita for walking away from Sarah? Was I too harsh, or did she cross a major line here? TLDR, I, 37F, left my cheating husband and asked my best friend, 38F, not to stay in contact with him. She ignored my request, continued talking to him, and even made comments about how she had a connection with him before we even got together. I cut her off because I can't trust her, but now she's texting me saying I'm being unreasonable. Aita? Update: Sarah sent me a long text message this week, December 2024, apologizing and wanting to regain my trust. She said that she missed me and wanted to know what she could do. After considering her words, which on the surface sounded sincere, and remembering everything that was said on this comment thread, I wrote back a reply that in essence said, "I don't trust you, I don't see a path forward, you have hurt me deeply and betrayed my trust, and I do not want to try and reconcile." Her reply back, and the final nail in the coffin of what I thought was a sincere friendship, was to attack me, bring up old sins from the past that were dead and buried, saying she only did what she did because she was angry for something she said I did years ago, and tried to minimize what she had done or deflect blame. It was mean and petty, and after I read it, I closed the message and just simply carried on with my life. Part of leaving my cheating husband was coming to terms with who I am and what kind of treatment I am willing to tolerate. I don't need friends like her, and I am in a place of peace about how this turned out. I didn't lose a friend, I gained some self-respect.